Welcome to the channel Tribe. This episode is a part of our webinar series TTTribeCast. In this episode, we are having K.Thulsi Krishnan talking on the topic API testing using Postman.
So it gave you back the response, and then it is available. And then, so the important thing that you have to watch out for is the status, how much time, milliseconds it took, what is the size of the response. And then you watch your test results also, how many of them have passed, right? And then as it is mentioned in the slide there, we can also do a save. Or you can do a download. So this is a small. So we just looked on how to make a request, and then we saw what are the additional parameters that we need to submit with the request and so forth. Right. So there is also a very nice facility that is available in your Postman tooling, right? So there is a one-to-one collaboration between CURL as well as Postman. Suppose you want to generate a CURL code. So this also helps you to generate it. So if you go and hit the code, right, and you choose the CURL, sorry. It will generate the CURL code for you automatically. So you can make use of them, and then you can make use of them. So this is a CURL code that is generated. So you can make use of, if you are interested in using a CURL, if suppose a developer is interested in seeing why the test case is not working, and developers like to use CURL. So that is the reason why such facilities provided. This slide we are just mentioning how difficulty it is. So what all things are brought together in a tool such as Postman. Suppose we have to make an OAuth1 signature. Okay, this is a flow chart which tells you what all it goes about in doing such kind of a validation here. Whereas we have all this facility, it is automatically inbuilt within Postman. And the same case with authorize also, right? So we enter the salient details such as the API key, which is equivalent to a password, and then we authorize the request. Inspecting facility, right? So this is a browser-based, response. So if you click on the network tag in your Chrome, it all shows you what all it went through, right? So the various resources that are being requested. So that facility is also available in your Postman GUI, right? So when we took in response out, we immediately saw that what is the status of the code, what was the JSON that returned, what is the size, and then timing and so as things are made available there. So we can do the same in Postman. In summary, we can configure the properties of the request, analyze the response, generate code snippets, authorize the request, and then inspect the request and response logs, and which is very, very useful in debugging your API. So when your API gets complicated, this will be helping you a lot in the longer run. Now, introducing the concept of a collections there. Now, as you have a suite of test cases, here also in Postman, you have a suite of API test. So all these things are all combined together and called in a good name called as a collection. Okay, and typically an API could be interlinked, right? So that is also particularly, we can group them together, and those facilities are being introduced over here, right? So as you see here, we can have multiple collections here, and as I also showed here also, we can have a lot of collections over here. So here, these are all the use case one. Okay, so I have grouped them under collection I called as empty one, and then the rest of them are all the simulate ones. So I have given them as chunk 2 and chunk 3 and chunk 4 like that. So all these things are grouped together. So this slide is essentially asking you to organize them, and then I can very well vouch for that, right? As your number of APIs are increasing, and then your regression efforts also will continue to increase. And then to get a sanity, you have to properly organize them. So that is a good way of how to organize these things. And how do you bring about all other toolings of Postman into play so that we take advantage of it? Mocking, we can do testing, we can documentation, right? Collaboration, we sync the workspaces. We can expose this API documentation to the partner world and so forth. There is also a concept of a folder there, right? So if you want to have some additional control, we can make use of folders and build the collections. So it's a good feature available in Postman. We can help to organize all your test cases, API test cases, or you can say requests, to store them in a group together. You can have folders to have additional controls, right? And you can have this concept of inheritance, right? We can have auth scripts, variables, and all that we can get inherited from another folder. So now introducing a little bit on the variables here. Okay, so variables, they are used to hold dynamic data, that which you are all aware. That's the basics, fundamentals of scripting or programming there. And it shows the gradation in across the where there can be utilized, right? We can have a local, we can have environment collections, and then a global level there. So the global one is the highest level. So that means a variable created in the global level can be accessed anywhere across. A variable across the collection will be only accessible across the request in that collection, right? And a variable environment will be available in that particular environment only. For example, I can show you. So when how to parameterize a request, we make use of all these variables here. So URL mtm underscore dev, this one is also a variable, valuation date and all that. So I get to store them in a particular environment. So This is the API, and then this is the release information here. And I can make use of all this particular details here. So there is a clear demarcation between the environment aspect as well as the global aspect. There are two sections here, so you can make use of them. Click on edit, then all the environmental variables will be shown here. So we have this initial value and then the current value, right? So as with any variable, it is loosely typed. So I don't tell whether this is a string or anything and all that. I just give a name to it, and then it doesn't follow any conventions. Also, you can do a mixed case and so on and so forth, right? And for example, I'm interested in parameterizing the URL, right? So I created one particular variable and I gave a value to it. Now, if I click on cancel, I can come to the globals. So I don't have anything variable here. I could as well, I can add them here. I can call them as a current test or whatever. So those are the so with respect to holding dynamic data, we make use of the variables, and then we have the concept of scoping. We have local, we have environment, then global, as well as in collection scope. Right. Now coming to your test and scripts. We know why do we have to test them, right? It's our profession, and but this is said, and more aspects of why do you really need to do them, right? So when we have to make sure that actually these APIs are performing, right? It's a contract between the service producer and consumer. What are the aspects to be tested? The functionality, performance, reliability, and security. So simply functionality will not do. Then you should perform also. Then the reliability, and then the security aspects. Then the reliable aspect is what is the available. There should be no downtime aspects to it, right? Now this slide is talking about test in Postman. How actually it is written there. Very fundamental block to it. So one good thing about in Postman here is it is written in JavaScript. So this is a very good choice in my aspect, or in my opinion, which you would all agree there. We say web and everything, the fundamental language that is being still used and utilized in ruling is JavaScript. So the testing scripts are also written in JavaScript. On the right side and all that, it tells you very neatly 4 different types of assertion, 4 tests are written there, or assertions are written here. And then one is checking on the status code, and then the second one is checking on the response aspects, and third one is making sure the content type is of asserting on the content type. And then another important parameter is that he wants to make sure that the response time should also be a certain number there. So these scripts get executed after a response is received, and you can have assertions that we have already seen. And in the right-hand pane, we can see a lot of quick start snippets. there you are. So as you can see, this is all written in JavaScript, and then you have to come to the test side and then you write them here. One, it could be on asserting on the status code, content type, and then within the response, you are checking what some details. Or it could be even complex as such of this, right? Suppose it is returning you a very big JSON, and then we can create one JSON variable, and then we can have them asserted against it. And there are additional libraries that are also available which you can make use of, such as Lodash and things like that. So it is very quite comprehensive. So and making use of them to do it. Okay, so we already come to a lot of we come to closer to the hour. You can stop here, and then we can try to take some few questions. Hello?
Yeah, sure, Tulsi. If you want to extend, we can. But if you want to stop, we are okay with that.
Okay, we will go in a logical way. Then I think we can try to you're going in a flow. We'll try to see how much we can do.
Yes, we still have time, so we can go ahead.
Right. So here, this particular PPT slide is showing about a life cycle of a request. There is also in an important way to understand, because we just saw some. We just saw the IDE, and then there are many parts to it and all that. So in a way, you can understand how this thing comes into flow and all that. I just mentioned briefly request script, and then a test and all that. Right. So if there is any request script, so that is get first executed over here, and then it comes to the request, right? That will get all the things will be padded up and then made and called to the remote server, and then the remote server will respond back, and then the test will be executed. So this is in a one flow. So your JavaScript, a few lines of code that you write here, that will get executed. Okay, so it could be manipulating the variables that get added up. Now it will form the request there with all this information, right? So initially, probably you want to, based on certain conditions, that I want to change an URL that needs to be called. So here the prerequest script will read some information, and then it will manipulate the URL here. Now with that information, it will make the request here, right? So now it is going to a different server. Now dynamically it will get called with the API keys and so on and so forth. It will make a request to the remote server. Then the remote server will come here and then give a response. Just we have seen that in the IDE, it will give a response back. Then after the response, these tests and all that, because now the response has come back. I want to run some test against it. I will validate them against the test, such as indeed, is it giving the status code 200? Okay, indeed, does it have a content type, and so on and so forth. So this is like this block diagram is showing in details about in a single script way. Okay, it is not in a collection aspect, and then this block diagram is showing in a collection. Suppose you have a bundle of tests and all that. What will be the flow there? So even in a collection also, we can have the pre-request tab there, except that the context will change there. So I'm hitting on my collection and editing it. As you see, there is also a prerequisite script tab here in the collection side. Right? Could also have a test. You can also variables also created here. So those prerequisite scripts in the collection will be run. Then it goes to the folder level, and I've not created any folders, but you could also have a folder within a collection there. And it'll go to the prerequisite script kept in the folder. It'll get executed if you have. Then it'll come to the prerequisite script in the request level. It'll get executed. Then all these things will get manipulated, and then it'll create the request for you and then call the remote server and then get a response. After getting the response, now the test in the collection level will be run, then into the folder, and then the individual script level. So this is the sequence it follows. We can also make use of a facility called as a dynamic request here. Dynamic request is pretty useful if then you were to do the concept of a chaining there. Based on certain conditions, I want to change the order of the test here. So when I have so many number of tests, the test will automatically how it will get executed is in sequence 38.1, 3, 1, 4, 2, etc. If suppose I want to move between 1, 3 and then 2, and then back to here and do this, then I can make use of this sequence of these scripts. There are Postman APIs that are available, which will help you to do the assertions. So all of them starts with PM, Postman, right? So manipulating environment comes with pm.environment, working with globals, variables, if you want to send some dynamic request, so on and so forth. And one tip is that we can't manipulate cookies. So it is not possible to manipulate cookies in Postman. We have libraries which you can make use of. We can make use of libraries such as Lodash, which is a JavaScript utility, Moment, and so on and so forth. Essentially, in summary, we are looking how we can make use of the collections. It's a good hygienic way of bundling together all the requests, right? And we can make use of the debug facility in Postman. We can also see how we can going to run a collection here. So highlight the collection that you're interested in running and then click on the run. It will help you to run your collection.
So when this collection is running, so are we making some performance evaluation as well around this suite, the collection?
Actually, I want to remind you that this is not utilized for performance testing. Though there are some articles that are mentioned in the Postman community, but I wouldn't use it. So I have my fellow colleague who uses JMeter to do all the
Understood. Right. Understood. Thank you.
No problem. So see, you have to demonstrate it. If suppose that facility is available and it is all working and all that, and then you should be able to be in a position to tell to the agile owner, product owner, yes, indeed, we can rely on this and all that. But so far, I have not utilized it. So there was also a request from my side and all that if we can run performance tests using this tool, but we are not gone to that one. But it's a good one question there. So now, as you can see here, it totally ran the whole entire suite and then told me how many test cases passed, and then there were 3 failures here. I can see one of them is a failure, the another one is a failure, and then three failures. So totally 48 test cases, and then 3 of them failed here. And you can look into the response body of each one of them. What is the request URL, headers, etc. So we just ran a collection request over here. And then we just looked into how this environment is all built and things like that. Now we just saw how we just ran a collection or testing a collection, right? So basically you can use the Postman app or in the cloud command line or in the cloud. Now, how are you going to run your collection in the command line? So we make use of the node facility here, right? So Postman has got an node-based facility by which you can run your collection suite, right? And when you want to run this new node-based facility, you have to make use of this tool or a utility called as a Newman here. And in my machine, we have that Newman installed here. As you can see, Newman is installed here, and then the other ones are the reporting aspects there. So I made use of certain good reporting facilities and then made use of them. So when you want to run your suite of collection in a command line, we make use of a facility called the Newman. And additional features that you get out of it is that you can integrate with your CI/CD, right? Typically, you get a Newman report like this, and then you have sophisticated HTML reporters also are available there. If your company is providing you the ability to run your collections in the cloud, then we can also make use of them, right? I believe that they are also giving a private cloud aspects as well, so we can make use of them because typically in all that companies would have an security aspects, because we can't run your test outside your environment. But Postman is also, I heard that they are giving a private cloud account. That means that all your tests and all that will be connected to account. So when you log in with your details, you should be able to monitor those details and all, and then look them using the Postman monitor. So when you log on to the dashboard, you should be able to see details and all that, and then it gives you a nice timeline also, and then on the request and the response aspects as well. Mind you, this is a kind of an analytics and log dashboard, but it doesn't. It's not oriented toward the performance aspects. So it can give you details about some failures and things like that, and all, which you can look at it. So monitor, you can also have the ability to run them on a schedule there. That is the advantage of it, right? You can take a collection and then have them schedule them, and then choose which particular cloud region you want to run them against it, right? Now after this, so we have made use of a Python utility, right? So we have a concept of something called as a baseline comparison there, right? Now, this is an analytics product which is built on the API from Reuters. So Reuters is a famous third-party provider. Okay, so Reuters is a company which gets all the stock information from across the world, right? So this API makes use of that details, and then it creates analytics on top of it, right? To make sure there is no regression there, we make use of the concept of a baseline there. So we create a baseline. That means that this is a reference line. I have so many collections there. So we store all these references and then store them in a directory. And then when we run the collection against it, we extract the response and then store it dynamically in the hard disk. And the Python will make use of the comparisons, and then they will show the details there in such a such kind of a fashion here, right? So So we have this concept of a baseline here. As you can see, we store the baseline here. So these are the baseline responses, and then we have stored them here. So these are the references ones. That means for all this particular collection, these are the reference ones. So we can match against them, and we also store the daily responses in this particular folder. So as you can see, every day it is getting dynamically generated. So this is run today, and then it has created it. It's 5:34 a.m. It has created here. So these are the responses that is created here. And making use of the Python utility, so we can go and then have a look at it and then compare there and then give you a report. We can have a look at them. Okay. I think we could stop here and we could take some questions.
Sure. Thanks, Thulsi, for the nice session today. So we have certain questions. The first one is from Pratik Roshan. Thank you, Pratik, for the question. This question is, APIs is equal to the code boundaries that you mentioned on your presentation. So he's asking, could you please explain that? What do you mean by that?
Okay, let me bring up that particular slide here.
Also, please share your screen. I think that's gone.
Yeah. Well, this is something that they have utilized it, but what I glean from my experience is that APIs give you the powerful ability to model across various subsystems. For example, employee could be one subsystem, department could be a subsystems there, and for them. They have modeled it as a code boundary, okay, or you can say an unit of a microservice, right? Or it's a API is nothing but one particular microservice unit. And the way the right hand side is explaining is that is an interconnected graph there. So that means that each and every units are interlinked across each other. One is dependent on other for its functioning. And in that way, when you do this such kind of a modeling, right, we can entirely model an entire corporate domain aspects. So as I said here, this could be the employee one, this could be the department one, this could be another enterprise reporting microservices unit. So like this, we can have this interconnection of all the systems together. I hope this is making sense for you. Yes? Hello?
So Pratik, can you hear me? If you think we have answered your questions, please let us know. If you think no, please post on the chat window and we will take it further. The next question is from Nirjar Banik. He's asking, what is initial and current value in managed environments? Is this used for parameterization?
कितना हुआ था?
That's actually it's a variable question here. So I'll bring up the aspects here. As I said, you have this environmental. You have the environments, right? So you can run your collection against the various environments, and one of the environment is your MMD_R9, right? So, and we can create those variables here. So as with variable, we can initialize them, right? That is the initial value, and then we can also set the current value to it also. So if you don't give the current value, it automatically just defaults to the initial value that you can do it. So as you can see here, my initial value and then the current value are one and the same. So it is a way of overriding it, right?
Nijal, does that answer your question?
Yes, Sandeep. Yes, Sandeep. I'm good. Thanks, Mr. Krishnan.
Okay, the next question from is Omkar Naik. In Postman, is it possible to take values from Excel or text sheet and use those values as an input for the API request parameter? So it's about data-driven stuff. So can it be data-driven, and what are different options available, including Excel, text, or maybe JSON or anything? So he needs some insight.
Yes. So it's a good question there. We have this facility available there in Postman, and so you can have the information made available. Then you can have them coming from a CSV file, or you could come from a JSON file also. I can also point you to the link which is there in Postman. Yeah, I have asked Sandeep to collect all the email IDs. I can follow up with and send you an URL, which will help you to take to that particular article in Postman there. But anyway, you can do a quick Google and then see here. Working with CSV files in Postman. So they have a Postman Learning Center, and then this gives you an example how to go about using it. And there is also a little bit of a nomenclature how to create the CSV file. So the header of the CSV file is very, very important, the first line. So that is how the Postman will identify what are the fields associated with it. So the very first file is very, header is very important here, and then you can make use of them. This article is good. I will send you across the link. And so I also showed you how to run them in a collection there. When you click on run, so this is where your data file comes into play here. So you can choose a particular data file, and then you can pass it to the Postman. And it cannot be a simple any type of file, but except that the header needs to be very important here. So they have shown you an illustration in the Learning Center here. It says access denied.
Okay, maybe, but it's possible, right? So, Omkar, to answer your question, that's pretty possible. As you see, even at the collection level. And so, does this answer your question?
Yeah. Thanks. That's fine. That's
You're
fine.
welcome.
Okay.
So, yeah. So before I go to the question. And please, I'm asking everyone to please post a question. This is a very different session. Usually the Postman sessions are constrained to the request response and 200 okay, but Tulsi brought it beyond that, going to the request level architectures and authorization, all of this stuff. So please post as many questions as you have. As a community, we will make sure that no single question is left unanswered, and all the answers are communicated well to each and everyone who has joined this webinar today. And based on the feedbacks and based on the questions, based on the follow-up questions, we will make sure that we request Tulsi sir to arrange a follow-up session as well on that. So please post your questions beyond the webinar question and answer window. If you have other questions, please post on the event itself, on the Facebook page or the community. And as I said, we will make sure that every question is answered through the experience and expertise of Tulsi sir. So the next question, Tulsi, is from Nirjar again. And again, I mean, his question is, I think, is aligned with Omkar's. When Omkar asking about data-driven, Nirjar's question was, can you please help us showing an example of data parameterization? So Nirjar, please look at the link, which is just posted in the chat window. It's a good article on how to set your CVS file. And I think that will answer your question very well. And as I said, please post your follow-up questions and we will take care of those.
Sure, sir. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Guys, any other questions? Now we are done with this session. I'm saying this session, not the entire session. There's a lot to cover on this Postman. So if you have any further questions, please post and let us know your feedback. I think, yeah, these are the questions we'll see as of now. And thanks everyone for joining us on a Sunday, putting your questions here and understanding, and let us know how does it go. Post your questions, post your feedback, post your further request if you need a follow-up session on the Facebook page on the event site, and we will take it up from there. Thank you, Tulsi sir. I think we can close now.
Thank you, Sandeep and Mahesh, and then all the participants. So I have all your IDs, email IDs will be with Sandeep, and you could send in your questions. So Nirjar had asked a question on how to use the data-driven aspects. I pointed you to the link, and then I would urge you to go through it. And as you said, sometimes on all that, working with this tool is you need to have a server and so on and so forth. I think the Postman has got working against, I think, this server, postman-echo.com. Okay, so I would urge you to go through them and then see if you have any kind of a difficulty here. I think you should not have any difficulty. Okay, because I think this particular postman-echo.com will be available throughout 24/7, so you should be able to use them. So similarly, also let me know if you have any other questions on using, let's say, a JSON file, how to manipulate a JSON file, and many things are there in that. Okay, you can come across. So you can send in your questions through Sandeep, and then I will.
Yeah, we will customize our next session, focusing on that as well and other aspects which the questions targeting, right, Tulsi sir?
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Okay, Tulsi sir, thanks once again. Thanks a lot for making it on a Sunday, and thanks to everyone who joined today. Thanks a lot. Have a nice weekend ahead. Thank you very much.
Thank you all. Have a nice weekend.
Thanks, sir. Closing now. Thanks.